What's up, guys? My name is Spartan, and in today's video, I wanted to answer a question I bet a lot of you guys are quietly asking yourselves. Am I behind? I say that because I definitely have asked myself that a lot, and still do to this day. If you're around the age of 30 and nowhere near $180,000 in total net worth, that does not automatically make you behind everybody else. That number is the average net worth for households under the age of 35, and averages in this case are seriously misleading and potentially dangerous. The actual median net worth is the number right in the middle, what the true average person is, which is only in this case around $39,000. Even that $39,000 number does not tell the entire story. So let's figure out what actually does. And before we get into the real numbers, I want to talk to you about why this question feels so heavy in the first place. If you spent any time in the finance space online, you've probably seen things like six-figure portfolios, high-income professionals in their 20s, people who live with their parents and save an unusually high amount of their income, people who get real-life help from their family, successful entrepreneurs, homeowners who just happened to buy before their area's home values took off, and on top of all of that, people just generally post their wins. Nobody is making a video talking about credit card debt or the month that they had to dip into their savings account. Like me, for example, there was a point in my life where I had no emergency funds and all of my money was just being invested. And, you know, an emergency happened. I had to take money out of my investments to cover it. That's the reality of life. And that's the stuff that nobody will tell you online. And I don't know why, because it's the truth. So what ends up happening is you're comparing your actual real life against somebody else's highlight reel of their financial outliers. And that comparison can honestly make genuinely reasonable progress feel like failure. So keep that in mind for the rest of this video, because the numbers that we're about to look into are real national numbers, not just highlight reel curated versions that you see online. So quick little reset, because this trips a lot of people up. Net worth is not your salary, it's not your checking account, and it's also not your investment portfolio. Your net worth is assets minus liabilities, which, if you don't know what that means, it basically just means everything that you own minus everything that you owe. Let's run a quick example here. Let's say that somebody has $8,000 in emergency fund savings, $25,000 in a 401k, $7,000 in a Roth IRA, $3,000 in a brokerage account, and a vehicle that's worth $15,000. If you add all of that up, that ends up being $58,000 in assets. All of that would be lumped into the category of assets. Now, the liability side. Let's say a $10,000 auto loan and $12,000 in student loan debt. Basically, $22,000 in liabilities or debts that you owe. If you subtract that number from the assets, that puts that person's net worth at about $36,000. Just keep it in mind. That number is not wildly different from the real national figure that we're about to look at. Here is the real data. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finance, for households under 35, the median net worth is roughly $39,000. The average for that same group of people, households under 35, is about $183,500. Same age group, same survey, and one number is almost 5 times bigger than the other. Why is this the case? Because a relatively small number of wealthy households pull the average way up. And if you've got a handful of households that are worth several million dollars sitting in that data, right alongside a much larger group of people with 20,000, 30,000, etc., the average ends up getting dragged upwards in a way that doesn't represent what a typical household would actually have. The median, however, that is a different story. The median net worth is the household right in the middle. Half of the people are above and half of the people are below. This is almost always the more honest way to look at it, focusing on the median, not the average. One thing that I want to be very precise about is this. This data covers households under 35, not specifically people who are exactly the age of 30. So don't treat this $39,000 as some official, this is what you should have by 30 target. It's a useful reference point, but it's not necessarily a report card. And here's where I don't want to dodge the question by saying something like, everybody's different, and then moving on, because that's not actually useful to you. Instead of chasing one magical number, I want you to evaluate 5 things. First, direction. Is your net worth increasing year over year? A rising $20,000 net worth is honestly healthier than a stagnant $50,000 net worth that hasn't moved in 3 years. Number 2, I want you to look at your debt quality. High interest credit card debt, for example, is a completely different problem than a manageable student loan or mortgage on a home. Not all negative or low net worth situations are equally concerning. Number 3, I want you to look at your liquidity. Liquidity basically just comes down to accessible cash. Do you actually have accessible cash? Somebody with a decent net worth but zero emergency fund or anything like that can still be financially fragile the moment that something goes wrong. And I already talked about that previously. That literally happened to me. I had a bunch of money invested and I had to pull from my investments to cover vehicle repairs that happened on my truck that I used to have. Number 4, retirement and investment progress. Have you actually started owning productive assets? Not just accumulating stuff, but actual assets, investments, things like that. Number 5, I want you to look at your savings rate and income trajectory. What percentage of new income are you actually converting into assets? Is your income increasing over time, or is every raise just getting absorbed into your actual life? This falls into lifestyle inflation, and I know I touch on it in so many of my videos, but that's because it is so critical to personal finance. If every time that you get a bonus or a raise at your job or something like that, you end up just buying more stuff, getting a better house, better car, better clothes, whatever it is. What ends up happening is all of that money from your raise ends up getting absorbed into your lifestyle. That's a very big thing. Savings rate is also critically important. As your income increases, your savings rate also has the potential to increase, so long as you don't succumb to lifestyle inflation. And here's the actual point. At the age of 30, the machine that you've built matters a lot more than the exact snapshot that you're looking at today. So let me show you why this headline number alone cannot answer this. Let's picture 4 hypothetical people that are all exactly 30 years old. Spartan A has $60,000 in net worth, which sounds great on paper, except half of it is tied up in a vehicle and home equity, with almost no cash and basically no retirement investing actually happening. Spartan B has $40,000 in net worth, but they've got an emergency fund established, no high interest debt, active retirement contributions, and automated monthly investing already running in the background. Spartan C actually has a net worth of around 0, mostly because of student loans, but their income is rising, they're contributing to retirement anyway, and that debt balance is shrinking every single month. And Spartan D has over $100,000 invested, low expenses, and strong consistent contributions. If you just ranked these 4 people by their headline net worth number, you would get the order completely wrong in terms of who's actually in a healthier financial position moving forward. Spartan B and Spartan C, despite having lower or even negative numbers, are arguably in a stronger position than Spartan A. So that begs the question, when should you actually be concerned? I do want to give you a direct answer on this because some situations are genuinely a warning sign, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise just to make everybody feel good. So pay attention if your net worth is consistently moving backwards, not just having one bad month. If you're carrying persistent high-interest consumer debt, if you have no emergency savings at all, if you have the capacity to invest but simply just haven't started, if you genuinely have no idea where your money goes every month, if you're regularly pulling from retirement or investment accounts to fund everyday spending, or if you have no plan at all for actually growing your income and your savings rate over the course of time. None of these mean that your future is ruined. They mean that there's a specific fixable problem and now you know what it actually is. So if you're behind right now, this is where I would start. Know your actual current net worth first. That's your baseline. That's what the rest of this all goes off of. That is your step 1. So first, figure out where you are today. Next, you want to stop high-interest debt from compounding against you before anything else, since that's actively working against every other financial goal that you may have. A 25% interest on a credit card, for example, is going to do a lot more damage than even a 10% capital gain on stocks that you have invested in. So you got to fix the high-interest debt. Build a real emergency fund so that one bad month does not force you into debt or out of your investments. If you're following the Dave Ramsey plan, for example, the baby steps, you could do a $1,000 emergency fund. What I personally did when I was first getting started with all of this was I did 1 month of my active, actual living expenses. I took the 6-month average from my bank statements and figured out how much money I actually spend each month to live. And that was my baseline number. That was my goal for building my first emergency fund. You can do something similar if you want, or whatever works for you. But the point of the emergency fund is just to give you a little bit of a buffer in case something happens, because guess what? In life, stuff happens. That's the reality. Next, if your employer offers a retirement match, capitalize on it. That's money that you're otherwise leaving behind. And especially employer matches for like a 401k or something like that, it's basically free money. If your company offers a 3% match on all of the contributions that you give and you're only giving 1%, you're missing out on that free 2% that you could be getting extra in addition to the 1% that you're currently getting. So definitely take advantage of employer matches if your company offers it. Next, you want to set up automated investing so that progress doesn't depend on remembering to do it or how motivated you are. It just automatically happens every single month. For me personally, what this looks like is every single week on Mondays, money comes out of my checking account without me even having to think about it, and it goes into my brokerage accounts and it automatically gets invested. Both my retirement accounts and my individual taxable account. Every single week, and that happens automatically without me even thinking about it. And this is really good because that way I'm not relying on myself to be motivated. It just automatically happens. Next, you want to work on increasing your income potential over time, since at a certain point, income growth moves the needle a lot more than squeezing your current budget ever will. When a raise comes in, redirect at least part of it towards investing rather than just letting your entire lifestyle absorb it. Again, back to lifestyle inflation, right? Manage your lifestyle and take some of that money and add it to your investments, add it to your savings, add it to whatever financial goals that you have. And last but not least, track your net worth periodically. If you do it quarterly, so 4 times a year, honestly, that's plenty. I personally like to check mine every single month. I just update it along with all of my other finance stuff. If you only do it 2 or 4 times a year, that's also totally fine. But one thing I would say is you don't need to actively check it every single day because that could honestly lead to things like anxiety without actually changing anything. So if you're currently around 30 years old right now, you still have decades ahead of you for your income growth and for compounding to work in your favor. I'm not saying that to make you feel better without reason. The math actually supports this. Somebody who starts seriously investing at the age of 30 still has an enormous runway ahead of them. So what should your real actionable goal be at the age of 30? Here's the honest realization that I want to leave you with. The ideal financial position at the age of 30 is not necessarily some magical 6-figure net worth number. It's reaching the point where your finances have stopped consistently fighting against you, and your system has actually started building wealth without you having to force it every single month. That means positive or improving cash flow, managing your debt, real financial reserves on standby, productive assets instead of just stuff, consistent investing that happens automatically, increasing your earning power over the course of time, and a net worth that is trending upwards, even if the current number is not impressive yet. That combination of steps is what eventually takes you to your next $50,000, your next $100,000, then $500,000, and beyond. And if you guys feel comfortable sharing this, I would love to hear where your current net worth is at. So if you don't mind, drop it down in the comments below. I'm actually just genuinely curious where everybody's at. And if this video gave you a clearer, more honest picture of where you actually stand, do me a favor and consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on the video. That is exactly why I make these videos on this channel. I want to try to help you guys out with understanding your personal finances and investing, and just try to simplify the process so that you guys don't have to stress about it. Because so many people fall into analysis paralysis, and I know it can be plaguing. I deal with it myself. So that's why I started making these videos. And with that, that is going to conclude the content of today's video, but thank you so much for watching, and like always, I will see you guys later.